Oh yes, we have epic Ted Cruz, the legend. So as I said before about, maybe COVID did probably, as much as it's been, a tragic, occasion, a tragic thing to go through. People have lost family members, businesses. It's just been terrible, right? Loads of negatives, probably far more than outweigh the positive. But one slight positive, I'd say a glimmer of positivity, would be the exposed politicians and media elites and mainstream media and whatever it may be, and the financial institutions and stuff that's going on with GameStop and Robinhood. They've all been exposed, right? They've all been laid to bear. Their hypocrisies, their indignation, their lack of empathy, their unwillingness to help and reach back. It's all been laid bare. And there's no bigger example of this than Ted Cruz during a flipping winter disaster in Texas, right? Where electricity and heat and just freedom of movement is completely locked off because they've suffered a completely crazy out of this world snowstorm. He decides to up sticks and take his family to Cancun because they were cold. And then when he gets caught, because again the Cancun thing isn't a big deal, again it's terrible. He's a governor in Texas, right? He should be he's a senator, in Texas. He should be there doing something. It doesn't mean he can turn the power back on and fix a generator or fix a grid, but at least be there in just a performative sense, doing the thing that you would expect someone to be doing, like him, wellness checks, being on the phone, pictures of him hunched over a bit of paper or over a laptop. I don't know, whatever it is, performative. That's what politicians do. No one thinks when a politician's on the phone that they're actually talking to everybody on the phone. It's all just politics, all just kind of photo ops, whatever. He doesn't do that, right? And he just goes, cool, no problem. Politicians are hypocritical. Politicians, it's not necessarily a civic duty, is it? It's just more sort of things that you just do because it's a job. That's okay. Do what you need to do. The thing that's actually reprehensible and something that is just terrible indictment of him as a person, as a character, and as a man is his excuse for it, right? Because again, you can go. Cancun's a great place, I'd imagine. I've not been myself. I've been to Mexico, but I've not been to actual Cancun. Raving it up and racking up lines on the bar as some great reggaeton plays over the stereo. I'm sure it's a great place to go. But when you do get caught and you have to answer for yourself, and this is what you say, this is when you're an absolute piece of shit. Hear this.
From the video on the cell phone was whether the decision to go was tone deaf. Look, it was obviously a mistake, and in hindsight, I wouldn't have done it. I was trying to be a dad, and all of us have made decisions. When you've got two girls who have been cold for two days and haven't had heater power, and they're saying, hey, look, we don't have school, why don't we go, let's get out of here. I think there are a lot of parents that'd be like, all right, if I can do this, great. That's what I wanted to do.
He blamed his daughters. From what I remember, what I saw anything online, I think they're teenagers, so it's probably not going to be as damaging as it would do if they were like young children, under the age of 15 or something. It'd be devastating to have your dad lie on you, but I'm sure they're aware of what he does as a job, and it is what it is. Sometimes, he's going to have to use their names as, a sympathy, as a tool of sympathy or as an excuse to get out of certain things. But imagine taking your family to Cancun because you want to escape the cold, and then blaming it on your daughters. The fact that he thinks that anyone will believe that his daughters have the authority in his home to just tell them, hey, on like a dime on the same day, let's go, is a joke. And then of course later on, which I wasn't necessarily a big fan of, the text messages between Ted Cruz's wife and a few other wives in their area got leaked, and there was obviously what it basically exposed was that they obviously planned it because one part of the story was true. They did want to go because it was cold, evidently so. It makes complete sense. Because Texas is not known to be Alaska, so I'm sure if you have the means to do it, a lot of people with wealthy means are probably flying out themselves. But that text message thread just exposed that it wasn't the daughters, it was actually the parents that organized it, specifically Ted Cruz's wife. She's the one that kind of was the quote-unquote group message admin that put that whole event together. And again, I'm not a fan of the text messages. I think that's unbecoming. I think that Ted Cruz did already enough of the damage. Don't need to get the wife involved. But just imagining it in front of the camera. First of all, imagine you get caught for something like this, and instead of the first thing you want to do is to actually go to the places where people are suffering the most and do something, again, performative, because it's not coming from a genuine place, because he's only back in Texas because he got shamed into coming back, right? It kind of got exposed on social media, specifically on Twitter. Someone saw him or recognized him through his mask and then uploaded it, and then it just went crazy on the on the feed, because this is at the time. I think Texas is much better now, but this was at a time when it was really bad, and there was a story of a 11-year-old kid dying through cold, like just terrible, tragic stories, right? And he was obviously in the airport, so people were just boiling and foaming at the mouth to hang this guy up, right? French Revolution style guillotine, right? Just furious. So he obviously didn't come back because he cared. So if you're going to come back because, you get shamed into it, the least you could do is be performative and go to the places where people are hurting. Hand out some waters, roll up your sleeves, take off your tie, whatever. Nah, the first thing he wants to do when he gets off the plane is get in front of the media and explain himself, justify his decision. That's kind of quasi-sociopathy, right? That is an element of it. Like, the first thing you want to do is kind of rewrite the narrative. People say he's a bit on the spectrum anyway, Ted Cruz. I'm not too sure if that's true. I just think, in regular everyday life, he gets away with this every single day. But, we're living in lockdown. A freak, natural event has happened in Texas, and he probably just, was oblivious to the pain of everybody else because he's an elite, right? Like, they kind of give you this idea that they're here to serve you and serve your best interests, when in reality they're only there to kind of line their pockets and make sure that their family's okay. But yeah, blaming your children, man, is just wild. Like, but what do you expect in it? What do we expect?